Greetings, IB artists. This is Miss A. My intention today is to really give you concrete examples of what a successful curatorial rationale looks like. I believe I've already posted some excerpts of this curatorial statement to my exhibition part 2 video, but we'll look at it together. I was a little bit paranoid about not having the rights to publish this. Again, this is purely for educational purposes. I think this will give you an overall view of the context from which those excerpts were taken. So the third sample is, I started by using repeating patterns to create a feeling of comfort in the viewer, thinking that this is what was wanted. But when my small and mostly insignificant personal everyday fears sparked an interest in phobias, I realized that perhaps discomfort was a stronger way to spark the interest and emotions of the viewer. So immediately the intention is made clear, it is personalized, they're relating it to their own fears, and they're also talking about the change that they have made from wanting to create work that's pleasing or comforting to actually going the opposite way and creating work that is uncomfortable. And this immediately tells me this person is fully engaged and they have a reason for doing what they're doing, and they're not afraid to experiment, explore, and based on those experiences, they then make decisions. So this is great. This is already a very good start. I began to use the idea of phobias within art, but quickly realized that in order to transform these emotional responses into visuals, it will be necessary to balance these themes with an aesthetically pleasing element, and so form the idea of aesthetic discomfort. Interesting. So this person felt that even though there is discomfort, that the work had to look aesthetic. It doesn't, right? Generally speaking, you don't have to make work that is aesthetic. However, there has to be some kind of justification if that's the case, right? There has to be a reason why you do anything, whether it's aesthetic or not aesthetic, makes no difference. And this goes back to what I was saying, that you're not assessed on what the examiner likes. I think you know this by now. Anyway, just thought I'd throw that in there again. I aim to do this in a variety of mediums. As a result, I have pieces in ceramic, chalk, charcoal, acrylic, as well as work exhibited in photographic form. By using a range of mediums, I gave myself an opportunity to experiment, but also allow for the viewer to experience a few of the ways in which aesthetic discomfort can be visually represented in art. I have used the scale of my pieces in a similar manner, deciding on scale based on the potential impact. The pieces displayed in the exhibition have been carefully selected based on those which fit my theme best and which interact with each other and the space allocated to me. So this person is justifying the selection of their works. It may imply that this person had even more work and they chose the most relevant pieces, which is a great thing. This is a hard-working person who takes themselves seriously. The two paintings, Blah Blah and Blah Blah, have been based on magnified and cropped versions of original photographs of mine and have been displayed side by side to create a backdrop for the Blah Blah piece. I'm omitting names because I don't want to, identify this person, unknown to me, of course. In Blah Blah, the feet have been kept life-size to allow the viewer's mind to recognize the possibility of the foot being real, right? So it's life-size, which immediately is relatable. And imagine how the pins would affect a real human foot in a more tangible way. So using body parts is immediately relatable. And if you're sticking something like pins in it, you create that kind of discomfort, right? So that's the strategy this person is using in order to convey the concept, which is discomfort or some kind of aversion to something. I discovered a way to explore some of the thousands of phobias that exist and how they can affect the way that individuals interpret their visual surroundings. I decided that certain pieces would interact well within the exhibition space and therefore should be displayed closer together. The three pieces blah 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 and blah blah, which all revolve around the fear of fungi and mushrooms, have been displayed in close proximity so that the viewer can understand how this particular phobia can be reflected within three different media: photographs, ceramics, and charcoal. I have created a triangular shape between the two pieces displayed on the wall and the ceramic piece so viewers can see the pieces from various angles while keeping the trio in sight. So she's given three of her pieces prime space, which can be, they're in a triangle, which, is really interesting, and they can be viewed from any point, wherever you are in the exhibition. It's interesting how they're combining different media, and it's almost like the media and the pieces are kind of having a conversation. They are connected. They are related, they are supporting each other or enhancing each other or accentuating each other, right? So again, this is very careful consideration as to how things are placed. Similarly, the two pieces blah blah and blah blah are based on the fear of clusters of small holes. Their influence is greater when they are exhibited close together, one on the wall and one on a plinth. I hope they highlight ways in which having a phobia can alter an individual's understanding of art and the world around them. Again, they are grouping specific pieces together, which apparently reflects how people with phobia, how they experience the world. This is my understanding anyway. My use of plinths to display my 3D artworks has allowed me to utilize the great variation of scale within my art. By matching the scale of the plinth to the scale of the piece, I am able to highlight the importance of size and perspective. For example, the use of different heights of plinths. Multiple small plinths for the piece blah blah enables me to contrast the destabilized appearance of the pots with a clean presentation, each having its own individual place in the exhibition space. Positioning forces the viewer to consider this collection of pots as one by leaving spaces between plinths that are not big enough to pass through, but allowing space on either end of the row to walk around the perimeter. So it's really interesting, having different heights to the plinths creates variety. Variety always makes things more interesting. Again, only if it's justified. There has to be a reason why there is variety. But I really like this idea of having the ceramic artworks on different heights. That's really interesting. Also, what's interesting is the grouping of these artworks, because they want the viewer to experience them as one. And also by kind of placing them apart, but without any room for the audience to walk through, it's again this kind of grouping. And possibly, this is because I'm visualizing this as I'm speaking, because of the curatorial rationale, they could possibly again function like these holes or clusters of holes. So the idea of the cluster is reinforced, right? So that becomes again very, very important to the concept. It really enhances it. Definitely interesting stuff. I believe it is important to draw particular attention to this mix of phobias because they are an aspect of some people's everyday life that they have had to come to terms with. By displaying them as artworks, we can understand the importance of accepting and allowing for human fears that are often uncontrollable. They're going back to the original idea of phobias, and they're kind of, reminding us what the work's about. In order to juxtapose the stereotypical and traditional forms of art which primarily involve artists creating objects they deem beautiful, I believe it is important to display works that force people to consider discomforts that they themselves may not experience. So they're widening it out. They want to somehow convey to the audience that the fear and the suffering involved. Very, very interesting. I hope you kind of seen that each and every one of these curatorial rationales is completely different. There is no formula. There is no set way or right way to do this. It's very, very personal. But the most important thing is that you're hitting and that you're really focusing on the criteria. You want to convey that you are engaged. You want to convey that you have done a lot of work which has helped you gain a lot of knowledge, and you want to convey that you are now using that knowledge and applying it to the way you are arranging your work in order to guide the audience as to how they get to experience the space and your artworks within that space. I hope this has been helpful. I am thinking of all the people who are about to embark on their exams soon. Work hard, persevere. The curatorial statement is very, very important. Make sure that you get a lot of people to read it. Ask them, does it make sense to you? If the answer is like, well, I'm not really sure, then you need to work on it. It needs to be clear. Even if your concepts are really quite complex, the clarity should be there. Stay within your word limit, obviously. And if you're kind of in doubt, go back to the criteria. Have I talked about how the body of work is coherent? Have I talked about the reasons behind the materials that I've used and the media and the techniques, etc.? Have I talked about the ideas in depth and how that is reflected in the artworks and how that's reflected in the arrangement or the curatorship of the artworks? Are you referencing some of the experiences of artists or art spaces so that you're kind of supporting your claims or your endeavors or your intentions? And lastly, have you really explained and justified the strategies that you have used in order to guide the audience as to how you want them to experience your work, what you want them to take away from the work, and what you want them to think about while they're in your space? Your intentions may not always be successfully conveyed in terms of, this is what I want the audience to get out of this. It's not that black and white, obviously, but there should be an attempt or an awareness of how that audience is thinking and perceiving as they're looking at the artworks that you have, slaved over for 2 whole years. Okay? Best of luck. I'm Miss A. I hope you enjoy my videos. I hope you like, share, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. All the best. See you in the next video. Dude, can you chill? Thanks.